Da-da-da. There we go. Hello, good morning. How are we all doing today? Hopefully good. I hope good. Probably good, right? Happy Friday. Happy May. First of the month. Glad to be done with April. Man, did that month fly by? In all honesty. Jeez. Oh dear. Okay, that happened. Cool. I hope you're all well. Hope you're ready to enjoy the weekend. Parks will legally reopen tomorrow, so that's fantastic. Hopefully the weather is better than it is today or yesterday. And we all get a chance to go outside. Matthew, Dan, Madison, Nick, Liana, Shannon, Jaden, Joe, Dylan, Adam. Thanks for being here. Good morning. We're going to get moving in just a sec. I figured to give you another 30 seconds for people to show up before we get into our itinerary on the day, which is going to be our project introduction. Take a minute here to get the last few pieces set up. We'll do this one. And then, of course, these ones. All right, so I'm going to try and move as quickly as I can for you folks. There's a decent amount of stuff to go over. And so I do want to be thorough as well, but of course, feel free to ask questions along the way as we're moving. And Jake has joined us as well. All right. Good morning, everyone. So let's just jump right in, shall we? Why not? Let's get to the right screen, though. That would be helpful. There we go. All right. So today, name of the game for today is to outline our next project, all right, as well as provide some guidance and support on our assignment that we're going to have today. Now, this assignment is in the name of pre-production for our project, all right, so it does tether to that in a meaningful way. When coming up with this project, I wanted to make sure that I was trying to find something that is easily accessible to varying degrees of situations, because everyone is at home now and not everyone's home is the same, and I understand that. And so I was trying to think, okay, well, what can we do that would be a good demonstrative use of our video skills and take what we learned in our practice project with WeVideo and kind of up the ante a little bit as far as giving you guys something that's a little bit more challenging but also a little bit more meaningful. And it kind of dawned on me after struggling for a bit with a couple different options that I was toying, and we'll see where the rest of our school year takes us if those ever resurface. But if there's one thing I've noticed a lot of stuff with online, on social media, on YouTube, is that there is a huge surge in self-betterment and, learning new skills and taking on, everyone has the time now, arguably, right, to just learn new things. And I thought, well, you know what? That's actually not a bad stepping stone. So let's move through what that looks like in regards to a video project for you folks. So I'll be at my desktop for most of this unless I bounce back. So if you do have a question, throw it in the chat. I'll be checking periodically. So if you see my screen swipe like that, it's just me checking to make sure that YouTube didn't freeze up on me. It's been good with this class for the most part, so I'm hoping that won't happen. All right. Now, one of the nice things, at least for you guys today, is that the preparation for this project is solely focused on the project itself. I don't have like a series of lessons to go through to kind of gear us up for this, because I wanted to develop something that should fall hopefully within your wheelhouse, like your skill set, your hobbies, your interests, and what you have access to around the home. And so for this project, we're finally going to be incorporating shooting your own video and then bringing it into WeVideo to use in your edit. So we're going to kind of go back to our roots now, put all the pieces together. All right, we have some experience with our WeVideo editing, and we have experience shooting things in class. We're going to merge those two things with this project here in a very simple but hopefully successful way. This is a pretty common formula for like video formats that I've seen a lot of online, as I tend to now look things up frequently and figure out how to do things around the house, or make a meal, or bake some bread, or whatever the case may be, that at least I've seen kind of as a trend. And so this project will then take us through what we would normally do in class, which is all three facets of production. All right, starting with our assignment today, and then picking that up after next class, and I'll explain that, of course, later. But it did make me realize that the notion of what we've been used to as far as pre-production goes is changed pretty drastically. I think it would be, I don't want to say irresponsible, but I don't think it would put you guys in the best position to kind of have to move through the traditional channels that we would do in class, as you're taking on a project yourself versus maybe with a group. There's a little bit less stuff stylistically to figure out for this project. And so, think about our normal workflow process. Okay, here's the project. Let's form teams. Let's start brainstorming. Let's get a treatment done, storyboards, shot list, script, and all those things need to be done before we move into production. So I wanted to make sure that I kind of reinvented a little bit what pre-production looks like, so that you're still feel like you're thoroughly planned, but that you're also showing me that you know what you're going to do thoroughly as well. It's one thing to be prepared for your project, okay, and then execute on that plan. It's another thing to have a great plan and let me know that you have a great plan and demonstrate that, but then execute poorly, right? So I can look at a final product, a video that maybe didn't come together that well for some reason, and then look back and say, well, here is their plan, and now I can connect the dots and see where maybe we fell short in some areas. All right, so we're going to hit all three levels of production, and I'll go through those today. All right, so without further ado, in this project, all right, you're going to be creating a 2 to 2.5 minute, spelled incorrectly. You would think the fourth time through I would change that, how-to video on a subject of your choosing. All right. And this can range from something simple to something complex, all right? But I'm hoping that you're going to find something that you're really good at and something that is a general interest or hobby for you. And don't let the heading there fool you, okay? It's actually pretty apt. The key word that I just said was that you're really good at. You don't have to be the expert. If you are, in fact, an expert at something, it means that you've mastered the craft flawlessly, and you're in the top percentage of people that do that craft, skill, job, whatever. I don't expect you to be an expert on something. I just hope that you're really good at it, okay? You can play the expert on TV. You'll be playing the role of expert while being really good at a subject of your choosing. I'll move through the video stipulations at the end, of course, after we move through the pre-production worksheet that you'll get assigned today. All right. But the game plan for this little presentation here is just to basically map out your concept. Okay. And you're going to hear me use the term build it out. All right. Build it out quite a bit today, as our object is going to be to, once we kind of figure out what it is that we can demonstrate, and maybe you've already immediately started thinking of some things, or the brain's already churning of ideas that you can do, you're going to need to flesh that idea out to kind of make this complete package as a video. And you'll find in some of the examples I give and the breakdown of some of these steps that the actual how-to portion becomes secondary to a lot of other things, believe it or not. Okay? And so step one, of course, is, well, all right, let's think of this concept. Let's try and come up with an idea. All right, but I know coming up with an idea can be difficult. And maybe your reaction was, well, I'm not really good at anything. And I refuse to believe that. And that's just not me being stubborn. And that's not just me, wearing my teacher hat saying, no, you can do anything you set your mind to. I genuinely believe that there is a skill, regardless of how silly or small you think it might be, that you are really good at and better than most people. So start to think as we move through things today. All right. And that's really where it begins. It's just kind of asking yourself that rhetorical question. What am I, or what are you really good at? All right. It doesn't matter how small. And I came up with a quick list of things literally by sitting here or standing here at my desk and looking around my room and saying, oh, everything on this next slide are things that are literally within probably eye shot of your house. All right, of course, because we can't really go anywhere right now. All right, and some of you may be able to go outside, in the backyard, front yard, down to the end of the street to chat with a neighbor, but some of us can't, and I understand that. So what you're really good at, all right, scales from the most intricate thing to the most simple thing. All right, maybe you're really good at brushing your teeth, doing your makeup, making a bed, all right, folding a fitted sheet, which I think is impossible, but someone out there knows how to do it because I found a YouTube video on it. Playing video games, cooking or baking, drawing or painting, cleaning, organizing, working out, exercising, helping others, taking pictures, folding clothes. Maybe you're really good in math class and you want to be able to demonstrate that skill. Crossword puzzles, games or puzzles, playing an instrument or singing, dancing, collecting things, writing things, picking out an outfit, reading. This list could go on. Heck, maybe you're really good at arranging furniture in your room for like that whole feng shui look. Awesome. Okay. And I know it may sound silly, but someone somewhere is saying, you know what? I think I'm better at brushing my teeth than most people. And there's probably a reason why they feel that way. Now we just need to tap into that reason and see if we can articulate it in a way to convince others to do it the way that you do. All right. So all these things scale to what's in and around the house. And we'll welcome Anna and Amy for joining us today. Okay. But like I said, you're going to be the expert. That doesn't mean you are the expert. You just have to be really good at it. All right. Being the expert on camera to a video audience is much different. Okay. Because we want to tap into your level of confidence. All right. Not egotism, but level of confidence. If you're confident in what you're talking about, all right, we're more inclined to believe you. All right. So even though it may be silly to confidently explain the steps that you would go through to brush your teeth, doing so confidently is going to make me to believe that, well, wait, hold on, they're doing it the right way. I've been doing it wrong the whole time. All right, you can get a lot of support, retention, attention, to your video if you're confident in what it is that you say. Okay, so if you're going to land on something and maybe you've got a few ideas churning in your head, we're going to build it out. Let's take a look at one of those ideas and build it out. And I came up with a few examples. All right, we'll move through two of them pretty quickly. All right, so there it is. First part, fill in that blank. All right, I am really good at what? All right, you guys have some ideas going through your brain right now. Try and fill in that blank. All right, so that you can start to just map out a little bit together. And if you're stuck on an idea, that's okay. All right. And I would encourage you to think about things that you're interested in, things you like doing around the house, things that, maybe if you've got like an older brother or a younger sister, and even if it's something like doing chores around the house and you're better at one of them than a sibling, but you were asked to do something else, like maybe you're good at vacuuming and your parents said, all right, little brother, you go vacuum. And you're sitting there going like, oh, he's doing it all wrong. How would you show him to do it your way that is better than the way they're doing it? All right, kind of take that approach with it. So how can we build this out? Well, there's a few things that you can do to kind of map out the pace of your video and kind of chip away at some of that runtime. All right, vacuuming, brushing your teeth might not be the most complex things to demonstrate, and that's okay. All right, but if we want to aim for that 2.5 minutes, we got to figure out a way to make brushing your teeth somewhat watchable for 2.5 minutes when really maybe it could be 30 seconds. So let's see how we can build that out. First, easy go-to, all right, after you get through the introduction of yourself and your topic and what you're going to kind of showcase for this video, is look to history or analytical information. A really cool or funky stat on a subject is a really great way to get people interested, because if after your intro, within the first 30 seconds of your video, you've given them a piece of information that maybe they didn't know. And so when they hear something they don't, oh, that's kind of cool, right, is usually the reaction when we hear something kind of trivial like that. But when we have that reaction, we're also more inclined to continue watching our videos. So if you don't want to be bored and turned off right away, maybe throw out a little bit of history, maybe throw out a piece of statistical information. And that's a great way to kick off what you're going to get into before you get into it. All right, discuss your plan. It seems counterintuitive to talk about your plan before going through your plan, but kind of outlining the steps of what you're going to discuss gives people an itinerary for what your video is going to contain. And in that, they're able to follow along a little bit better. All right, so not just masking out or marking out the steps of your process, but the steps of your video, and explaining that up front can be really great. It could be very simple as, all right, before we get into my technique for brushing our teeth, here are a list of things that we're going to go over in this video. Here's the things that you need to know before you start. Here's the instruments that you should use. And then here is the setting in which to do this. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but it's worth outlining, and you can kind of build out your video that way. And then finally, after you move through your step-by-step process to demonstrate your task and do that how-to, offering up tips and tricks that you've kind of picked up on in doing things is a really great way to kind of add a personal flair to your video that's unique to you, all right? And it also gives people the opportunity to try something maybe different. Alternatives are a great one as well. And of course, you can always encourage people to try your techniques on their own and see how they do, and hopefully find that it betters them. All right. So if we were to take our first example here, now I like to cook quite a lot, and I've been doing a lot now because a little fearful of ordering from restaurants. So I've been doing a lot of home cooking. And while I was very tempted because of my own penchant to want to make my own examples for you guys and break out the camera and shoot some video, which I haven't done in a while, I did not make a example for this because I didn't want to clean my kitchen. No offense, it's gross, and no amount of scrubbing would make it look very clean, so I opted not to do that. But I understand that not everyone has the same level of cooking expertise or even interest, but I still think there's a couple basic food menu items that everyone should know how to make and make pretty well because they're really easy. So I just figured, okay, for our first example, I would answer my question by saying, I am really good at making grilled cheese. Okay, cool. Let's build it out. So I kind of broke this down into 5 steps, which would be the 5 parts of my video, not including an introduction or an outro, although the outro is probably baked in to part 5. So again, this is part of the pre-production planning. I want to have this stuff so I've got material to use in my edit. If I choose not to use it in my edit because I'm either pressed for time, maybe my video is running long and I don't have time in my 2 to 2.5 minute time frame to go through the history of grilled cheese, which would be the origin of how that sandwich came to be, okay, but I've planned for it and I shot it just in case. All right, I may find that my how to make grilled cheese, the actual clips of me putting a sandwich together and using the pan and all that stuff, initially takes 60 seconds to do. But maybe I want to try and emulate some cooking videos that are out there where they do a lot of things in time lapse because it's quicker, all right? And then maybe that 60 seconds becomes 30 seconds. Well, shoot, now I just cut 30 seconds out of my video I need to get back. So maybe having that history stuff in there is a good way to get that 30 seconds back. And thankfully, since I've planned for it, I know what I'm going to say. And if I've shot it already, it's just a matter of getting it into your edit. All right. And it may sound really silly to get into the history of grilled cheese, but a 2-minute Wikipedia read on grilled cheese gave me just enough information that if I needed to talk about the history of the grilled cheese sandwich, which, if you didn't know, came about as a Depression era food because it was inexpensive and a way to serve a hot meal to guests as a form of a courtesy. A lot of, like when you had company, it was kind of frowned upon to serve a cold meal. And so grilled cheese was a way to kind of follow that custom and be polite, but also offer something that was rather inexpensive at the time. In the 40s and 50s, as the government issued, believe it or not, cheese, and maybe you've heard that expression before, government issued cheese. It's kind of akin to how food stamps may work today, where they provide vouchers to lower income families that are able to then get necessities for their home and, like eat and live. The government would give blocks of cheese. And so that was one food group that people didn't have to buy, so it became a really economical way to have a decent hot meal and not have to pay a lot of money. It was originally, in my 2-minute research, created by a naval chef who was able to make many sandwiches at once using a flat top grill and thus provide hot meals to his crew quickly and at the same time. So I just talked your ear off on the history of grilled cheese for like a minute. Can you see how some of that info might be useful in a 2 to 2.5 minute video, just to kind of build out that video into a more well-rounded, interesting watch? So now that you know more than you ever thought you needed to know about grilled cheese, let's move on to step 2. And that would be just, well, let's get into the ingredients that I'm going to use as well as some of the preferences. Maybe I want to use a different type of bread than most people would use, and so it's worth recommending that, because if immediately I go into, okay, so take out your 12-grain whole wheat bread, people are going to go, wait a minute, I've always made grilled cheese with white bread, and now, like, you might want to mention what you're using and why you prefer to use it. It's not until step 3 that we actually get to the step-by-step process of making the sandwich. Okay, this is the actual how-to. So in 5 steps, the first 2 are just introductory, some background information, and then going over the ingredients. The putting together of those ingredients and the process in cooking that sandwich doesn't happen until step 3. So at this point, you've gotten folks halfway through your video, and we just got to the reason why they're there to watch it. Once that sandwich is done, I might discuss alternatives to mix it up if you want to try different things, different breads, different cheeses, different spreads, different things you can add if you want to throw bacon in there and ham, or even throw an egg on there. Why not? And how you can adapt to different ingredients, right? Because if you want to make this on hand right now, you kind of have to make do with what's in your home unless you're running to the store. And well, if we can't do that, maybe I don't have bread, but I've got muffins. Well, that would be a really weird grilled cheese sandwich. I might try it, but it would make do in a pinch. All right, and then finally, you're going to wrap things up by enjoying the heck out of that grilled cheese, and then encourage people at home to use what you've taught them to make the best damn grilled cheese sandwich in the world. All right. Ashley's joining us. Thank you, Ashley. Good morning and welcome. Guys, if you have questions along the way, throw them in the chat there. I'm going to move quickly through my next example. This was something, just to give you an idea, that I know nothing about, because I don't know everything. So I was like, okay, well, what do I know that some students do that I cannot do or have no interest in doing, and see if it made it any more challenging for me to map out an idea. And it really didn't. So my second example was, okay, I'm really good at dancing to pop music. I'm not. Terrible. Really bad. I can't even fathom how bad. But I wanted to do something that was kind of easily demonstratable, right? There's dance moves that you can do and have people follow along while you do them. And so I thought, okay, well, dancing is a good one. But I also know that there are several different types and styles of dance. So this isn't, I'm really good at dancing. This is, I'm really good at dancing to pop music, because I could have said I'm really good at dancing ballet, dancing to jazz, dancing to tap. There's like different, so you kind of want to be specific in that regard. You can't just say, oh, I'm good at dancing. Narrow it down. All right. Because if I'm going to look for help on how to dance, I might be looking for help on how to do a specific type or style of dance. Okay. And if you just give me, I'm good, like, this is how you dance, that doesn't give me enough direction to want to say, watch that video and then pick up that information. All right. But now that we have that, I'm really good at dancing the pop music. Let's quickly build it out. All right, so I might start my video after my introduction of myself and our topic as to kind of talking about the style of dance, how it came about, and who were popular musicians, artists at the forefront of making that dance popular. Okay, like I can get into a whole world of pop music dancing and how Michael Jackson was like the, king of cool. All right, but I can spend 20, 30 seconds maybe or less going through some of that information. All right, step 2 for me was, well, it would make sense that I'm going to tell people what they'll need to do if they want to follow along while watching the video or practice on their own. Okay, because I figured a dance video might be something where I'm not just going to show it. People might like pause and follow along with me, and I want to make sure that they're ready for that if they choose to be. Then, step 3, I'm going to go through the dance that I'm teaching. what it's based on, what they can use for music, as well as the song that I'm going to be using. I don't know a lot about writing music, but I know songs have certain tempos and rhythms and time signatures, and so a song that I'm using is great, but if that song you don't like, you can find something that will match that rhythm, tempo, or time signature, and the dance will still apply. If you're musically inclined, you might know what that means, and if you're not, you might not be watching a video on how to dance anyway, so that's okay. Finally, it's not until step 4 that I'm going to actually go through the moves and the steps, all right, and then slowly so that people can follow along, right? You would do that dance kind of in slow motion. I'm really tempting myself not to dance. And then I would kind of end by showing variations, how you can mix it up a little bit. And so I think you'll find that depending on your topic, your 2.5 minutes is going to fly by. And I didn't want to make this like a 5-minute video, even though it easily could be. I wanted to try and keep things concise. So I'm going to pop in on the chat, see how everyone is doing. So far, so good. All right. Again, if you've got questions on things, please do not hesitate to throw them in there. All right. So I can answer them as we go. Ba-ba. All right. So where this puts us now is going to be phase 1, of course, all right, which is our pre-production. And like I said before, storyboards, shot list, and all that stuff doesn't seem to make a lot of sense for what we're doing. But that doesn't mean I want you to kind of just go, oh, I know what I'm doing, cool, we're going to just, that's it, I got a plan, good, bye. I want to see that you've developed this, all right? And I think you'll find that going through our pre-production assignment is going to help you get focus before you shoot and when you sit down to edit, because the one thing you want to try and limit yourself from having to do is, I should have done that. All right, well, I could go back and do it, but I really don't feel like going back to shoot, right? The last thing you want to do is go, I'm gonna add this, so I got to go shoot it and then upload it and then import it. And then, okay, maybe I'll shoot that too. All right. Like you want to try and get as much done in one fell swoop as possible, if possible. All right. It really does depend on your idea. All right. And what you're demonstrating. Like if you know you brush your teeth twice a day, that might be 2 automatic times of the day that you can videotape brushing your teeth. That's not to say that brushing your teeth 10 times in a day to shoot a video is bad. It's probably not great. But it's not super detrimental. You'll run out of toothpaste quicker than you normally would. All right. Yesterday, someone had mentioned, they're going to cook something. Okay. Well, like if you're going to do your special mashed potato recipe, fantastic. Maybe volunteer one night. Hey, Mom, Dad, I'm going to make mashed potatoes for dinner tonight or with dinner tonight, whatever you're making. And I'm just going to videotape it along the way. You might want to be really thorough about your planning process, because if you've got one chance to make mashed potatoes, you want to nail it and make sure you get enough footage, because you might not have the ability to go, oh, crap, I forgot to show this part. Well, I'm out of potatoes. I don't know what to do. That could be a problem. So just make sure you're thoroughly mapped out. And this is what our pre-production assignment, all right, is going to help us with. Now, I'm going to move through the doc in a second. I have a special note on the due date here. So traditionally, everything we've had really so far for our classes online is that everything is due by the start of the class on the due date. Okay, and that's usually so that we have some time to discuss, get some feedback. Last class we watched our video projects that you had turned in before class, so that was really helpful. For this pre-production assignment, it is going to be assigned today, but it's not going to be due until the end of the next class. All right, and that's because I want to make sure that when we meet again on Tuesday, if there are people that are stumped along the way, we have dedicated time together to move through that. Maybe you can ask me questions. Hey, Mr. Leonard, I'm stuck on this part. Do you have any recommendations? Yeah, okay, let's talk that out. Things that I would be able to do if I were to walk around the classroom and assist you guys in your planning process. So, oh, it sure does. Dan, thanks for pointing that out. So I changed the due dates. God dang it. Incorrect. So the due date that Google has assigned is correct on Tuesday, May 5th at 10:59 a.m. So I apologize for not changing the text, as I just copied and pasted this post from my class yesterday. And save. I changed it. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Dan. Very much appreciate that. I apologize for that confusion. And now I'll have to go and check the one yesterday and make sure I didn't make the same mistake. So let's move through here. And yes, they were posted on Classroom. So this worksheet I'm going to go through now is on Classroom. The presentation that I've gone through with the project on Classroom, and the video stipulations are also on Classroom. Refrain from, they're there if you want to go get a sneak peek or move through them with me, but I want to move through them with a little bit more thoroughness just so you feel comfortable in answering some of these questions. All right. So this is I have up here our pre-production worksheet. All right, this is what's going to be due at the end of next class. All right, so you might have some time today, you have the weekend, you've got Monday, all right, and then we have our hour together on Tuesday to get this turned in. All right, so the first thing is the thing we've seen a few times in the presentation. I'm really good at blank, and I want you to fill in that blank. This is where your concept is going to go, all right, and the rest of the 4 parts are to help us build it out a little bit. All right, so part 1. And I just use parts to break it down. That way, if you come to class on Tuesday, you can say, Mr. Leonard, listen, at part 2, I've nailed because I know what I'm going to do. What do you have any advice for, question 1 and part 1? Then we can just narrow it down a little bit. That'll help communicate effectively. So part 1 is our intro. All right. Question 1, list some background on your skills, on your skill. This could be that historical information, this could be statistical information, or it could be both. There's also something to be said about, explaining how you came to be the expert on this subject. So if, for example, the example I used yesterday was, say you want to demonstrate how to do the perfect free throw. You got a basketball net in your driveway, and, since you were little, you started just sinking them, no problem. Okay, that's great. So let us know that background. I've been playing basketball for 10 years, and I'm here to show you today how to do the perfect, flawless free throw. Even something like that goes a long way in building your credibility. All right, I would rather learn from someone who's been playing basketball for 10 years than the person who's been playing for a week or doesn't play but has a basketball in their driveway and just kind of putzes around. So you can talk about how you became the expert, as well as get into some of that historical information, right? Because talking about the history of how the free throw came to be is like, you can do an hour-long documentary on that, I'm sure. All right, question 2, list the objects that you'll need to make the video, and this is outside of the video equipment. I know you're going to need a camera and your Chromebook, all right? So you don't need to list that stuff there. This is strictly the items that you're going to need for your video. All right. So if I was going to use my grilled cheese example, I would need bread and cheese and butter and a stove and a pan and a spatula and a knife. And I know that sounds really kind of like, well, wait, of course you need all those things. Why would you list them? Well, I can tell you for certainty yesterday, it wasn't until I got through part of part 2 that I realized I didn't have a knife listed here. So I went back up and I added it. And feel free to do that. If you're discovering you're using things down here, go up and add them back to this list. Because when I sit down to make this video, you better believe I'm going to have all these things on the counter ready to go. So I'm not fumbling trying to scramble and grab something just while I'm shooting. It's all there ready to go for me. All right. Question 3, explain why your way of doing it is the best. Okay. For this one, there's no real wrong answer. So even if you think it's like, all right, my free throw technique is kind of silly, but it works for me, like this is where it's going to go. All right. So you can't just say, oh, it's the best because I'm the best. That doesn't explain anything at all, ever. Saying that just actually proves that you don't have a real reason. You're just trying to cover that reason. So kind of break down why you think your way of doing it's the best. What this is going to do is it's going to cement the rationale for why we're watching this video, because it makes you a more relatable expert. This is the reason people are going to want to watch you do what you're going to do. All right, part 2 is just the process, and question 4 is explain the steps you'll go through in the video when showing your skill. All right, I'm hoping that you'll use at least the 5 steps that we did as an example in class, but if your process is a little bit longer, by all means, add the steps. Okay. This is not the breakdown, okay, and just to clarify, of your video. This is strictly the breakdown of the skill that you're doing, okay? So if I go back to my presentation real quick just to show you, okay, my grilled cheese example. I have 5 things listed here. Don't let that confuse you, because what I'm asking for on that worksheet is exclusively, whoops, as I'm moving things around, okay, the how-to. I'm asked like step 3, the step-by-step process of making the sandwich. That's what's going here. All right, this is not to include the outline of my video, because if you think about it, all right, part 1 here, start the discussion of history. 2, get into the ingredients as well as preferences. You've kind of already answered that part up here. Okay, so this is strictly the steps that you're going to go through in your process, which depending on your skill set, there might be way more than 5, and that's fine. Okay, I had someone in my TV3 class yesterday say, well, Mr. Leonard, can I do like horseback riding? And I was like, hell yeah. I have to imagine that there is a lot to that process, so her steps are going to be a little bit longer. But if this part acts as background and things that you're going to need, right, which were parts 1 and 2 of the grilled cheese example, this becomes your script for your how-to. So when you're actually doing things on camera, having this written out here becomes the exact word tracks you can say, which is why I want you to explain it in complete sentences, because that will translate better to a script. If you were just like, I don't know, grilled cheese, right? So take all your ingredients out. Step 1, okay? Step 2 could be soften the butter in the microwave for 5 seconds. But I might write that out a little bit differently. I'm going to say the first step you're going to make sure you can do is have spreadable butter. So I'm going to put my stick of butter in the microwave for 10 seconds, or 5 seconds, just to soften it up, because you want that to be able to spread. And having it explained like that on your document, okay, is going to translate to you saying it like that on your in your video shoot, and you're going to save so much time, and you're going to be way more thorough. All right, so add more steps if you need to. Question 5 of part 2. What are some of the parts of the step? I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. What are some parts of the steps That's just worded super poorly. Not that it matters because it's already in classroom. What are some parts of the steps people can adjust or change if they need to? Again, grilled cheese. I like to use butter on my bread before I throw it in the pan, but if I don't have butter, or people want a lower fat option, arguably, they can go to a spreadable margarine or even a low fat mayonnaise. So like you offer alternatives there because it gives people more flexibility to make this if they know they don't have some things in the house. And then the last question, any special tips or tricks you've picked up on your craft that you can share? And this would be very specific to you, right? If everyone essentially knows the ingredients to grilled cheese sandwich and kind of how to put 2 pieces of bread with cheese in the middle together and throw it on a pan, anyone can make it. But what do I do that's different? And that's where that would go. Now, part 3 is the shoot. All right, this part of the pre-production is going to map out, all right, one of the required elements in this project, which should be familiar to you as it's kind of been a mainstay for most of our projects this year, is that there is a list of shots that I want you to get. Okay, 5 of them, in fact. You're going to be using a close-up, an extreme close-up, a medium shot, a tracking or dolly shot, and a top-down shot, which is a type of bird's eye where the camera looks straight down as opposed to at an angle. I'm going to go over the tracking and dolly shot here in a sec. All right. So when we think of the tracking or dolly shot, okay, and I'm just going to use my phone as an example here, as I feel most of you are going to be shooting on your phone unless you have access to a camera. This works just as good, I promise. All right. First things first, I'm going to make sure that my camera is horizontal before I hit record. There we go. Okay, it's recording. Most of us know the tracking or dolly shot as a grandiose gesture of camera movement because we've used them in the hallways of school, right? If you're tracking someone down the hallway, you're doing one of these things, and while that's great, and that is a tracking shot and a dolly shot, maybe what you're doing does not involve camera motion that is that intense, and so you can be really subtle with this. So if you're doing let's just say I'm doing a how to set up a microphone and computer equipment for a YouTube live stream, which I actually started typing up in an email to another teacher friend of mine, explaining that process. And so maybe I want to talk a little bit about my microphone choice, all right, and why I chose this type of microphone over other microphones. And while I'm discussing that, okay, I'm going to get a tracking or dolly shot, but it might look like this. All right, or you can do a subtle approach. Okay, so going 3 inches, all right, forward as a tracking or dolly shot can be even more effective sometimes as going 30 feet. All right, the camera's still doing the motion, it's just not as extreme as what we're used to. So it may sound really weird. Well, how am I going to get a tracking dolly shot of, I don't know, brushing my teeth? Well, maybe when you're showing the objects that you get those, and I love when cameras do this, is that nice little arc shot. So you can do things like that are really subtle, and they're going to add a nice level of production value to your project. All right, so you're going to move through, and this becomes our modified shot list. If these are the 5 shots that you need to have, you're just going to explain to me and think ahead of time, okay, what are we going to see during those shots? What's your close-up going to be of? What's your extreme close-up going to be of? Medium shot, tracking dolly, and top-down shot, all right? So having the foresight to know that these are the things you need to get will help you while you are shooting to know, oh, okay, I have to shoot it this way because it's one of the project requirements. And then the last part 4, is very simply the edit. Okay, what is your title for your final piece? And just having a general idea of what it's called. And again, with your practice edits, you guys did a really great job of having creative titles. Try and think of something, that's, I guess, eye-catching, but also interesting and related to what you're doing. Because if you're like, how to make grilled cheese? Well, Google that, and you will find thousands of things, right? But if it was, I don't know, sleazy and cheesy, the best grilled cheese sandwich, people might go, oh, well, that's way more interesting already based on the title alone. So that'll just give you some idea of what you might want to call it. And then if you know that ahead of time, it's one less thing you have to worry about in your edit, because typically a lot of people in class would struggle with, okay, the edit's done. What do I call this thing? And then it became such a, you know what, I don't care. Let's just get the title in there so we can export it and turn it in. But if you know your title, before you even start shooting, you won't have to worry about it at the end. All right, so let's get that out of the way. I'm going to go back to the stream. Everyone's super quiet, but that's okay. All right, I've got one more little thing for you before I open it up for questions. So if you have questions, throw them in there, please. All right, otherwise, there's one last little bit, and that's just the project stipulation with some tips and tricks for you, and then we will wrap on the day. All right. So the final piece of hardware here today, all right, the project one sheet. Again, all of these are posted up on Classroom for you, and you should have access to all of these. If you have an issue, just email me and let me know. All right, so I'm going to move through the objective and goals. As you know, they're always very similar. Our goal this time around, though, is applying our successful video production skills in all 3 facets to reach an audience with an intended message, okay? Because you can do a video, but it might not reach the audience in the way that you want. So that's where execution comes into play as much as we plan. And then understanding the workflow process from getting video from source to destination. And I'll talk a little bit about that at the end in regards to getting content from your phone or camera to your Chromebook. Not difficult, but it's something that you want to have some foresight for. So as far as the video requirements, not a whole heck of a lot, all right? There is going to be a 15-shot minimum, and that does include the 5 shots. Got itchy knees today. 5 shots that I'm asking you to get, okay? I think you'll find that if you look at, okay, well, I clearly need to, introduce myself and maybe close the show out, and if my how-to process has like 4 or 5 steps, okay, I'm at 7 shots already. I'm halfway there, and I haven't even gotten to any creative flexibility in showing what I'm doing. So I think you'll find that 15, you're probably going to be well above, okay? Because of the step-by-step process and how you may want to break down your video, I've upped our uses of text, a title, of course, and credits, of course, but I'm going to ask that you use 5 additional, 7 total uses of text in your video. Okay. And that, guys, it could be really simple. It could be your title, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, credits. Okay, done. We're good. My one piece of advice would be to keep your titling consistent. Okay. If you want to have like a different title, but then your text in the rest of the video is the same, that's fine. But I would avoid the temptation to use really wacky colors and fonts and have them change. You kind of want to keep that consistency there. But if you're doing a step-by-step process, this could be a good opportunity to go into WeVideo and use some of those lower thirds that look really cool on the screen as well. And it's going to add that nice little extra layer of professional polish and make your video stand out. Okay. Creative title and credits are there. Those are included in your uses of text. Okay. At least one song mixed well. And this time around, mixing is a little bit more important. So while we were balancing 2 songs in the last project and making sure those levels were as even as they could be for both songs, this one's going to be a little bit different because you're going to have to pay more attention to what you're saying on camera as well. And this is where you're going to have to do some of the keyframing in your audio to make sure that if you're explaining a step, the audio in your clip is up and the song comes down. But maybe if you're doing a montage of things, the music comes up and the audio in your clips come down. So that's going to take a little bit more time. Once you get that video edit done, don't overlook audio. Okay, it's going to be very important. I need you to appear in the video as well in some capacity. Now, this is of course open to interpretation, and you can be in there as much or as little as you want. If you're going like bare minimum, probably seeing you at the beginning of your video to introduce yourself and your topic, as well as the end of your video to kind of close it out, would be, I would fathom, the least amount of on-camera presence you can have. And depending on your skill, if you're doing something that involves, like let's say you are doing dance, well, you might be the one in that video doing those dances and addressing the camera and giving that instruction. You're going to be on there more than most. But even if you're doing, like I can do how to make a grilled cheese sandwich without showing me at all. However, when there's a face relatable to the skill at hand, all right, we're a little bit more inclined to believe that person because they're not hiding their face. All right, so there does need to be some on-camera presence where you are addressing the camera or giving some sort of instruction. All right, and of course we know the runtime 2 to 2.5 minutes. So this is a brief outline of the schedule, okay? And I've still got 1 or 2 things I'm tinkering with, and I'll explain those at the end too. All right, pre-production, which is this worksheet, all right, that we just went over, is going to be due at the end of next class. That'll allow us to work together through it if we have it, or you can pop into the stream and say, hey, Mr. Leonard, I just turned in the assignment. I'm good. See you later. Also cool, okay? If you're going to do that, I would appreciate the pop in. Just let me know you're good and you had no questions and it's turned in. Have a great day. Cool. All right, at least that way I can say, oh, no, Matt Agar did come into class on Tuesday. He just told me his assignment was in and he was good and then he left, and that's perfectly fine. It's the classes after that that are going to be a little bit different. So coming up with a time frame for this project was a little challenging, but I think I've given enough time to make this doable and not overbearing. The 2 classes after that have been dedicated for production time, and the 2 classes after that have been dedicated for your post-production time. That's not to say that, oh, okay, Mr. Leonard's giving us 2 hours to shoot and 2 hours to edit. Depending on what it is that you've chosen, you might, like if you are making mashed potatoes with your family, that might be okay, I've got to shoot at 5 o'clock and it's going to take, like 40 minutes to prep and start making mashed potatoes. Okay, so if that's your hour of work for class, you're just taking that hour from 10 to 11 and making it from 5 to 6. And I'm not beholding anyone to say like, oh, well, what if I want to shoot for 7 hours? Cool. Like, make the best damn video you can, of course. So what I'm saying is those days I will be available, all right, for questions, mainly just questions, issues, troubleshooting, things like that. I haven't decided yet, and I'll let you guys know by next class what that's going to look like. It might be a standard live stream where I'm going to be here. And, if I come in at 10 o'clock and no one shows up for 20 minutes, I'm going to end the stream. It might be, I might do like an all day 4-hour Zoom meeting and just say, okay, everyone's working on this project. So if anyone needs help, come to my Zoom meeting. I'll let you in. We can chat one-on-one, and then you can go on your way. It might be something like that. So I'm still kind of working on that a little bit, just to make sure that I'm available in some higher capacity than, I can email Leonard between 9 and 10 or 10 and 11. I want to be a little bit more hands-on with you guys as much as possible. All right. So what that's going to look like, and we'll start to wrap up. Okay. If I take out my calendar here, today is May 1st. All right. We know that we are going to meet on the 5th, okay, to discuss this assignment and to have it turned in by the end of class. All right. We know the next 2 days after that are billed as as production days for shooting, which would be the 7th and the 11th. The next 2 days after that are going to be billed as post-production days, all right, which are going to be the 13th and the 15th, all right, which would make this project due at the start of class on the 19th. That's a little over 2 weeks for a 2.5 minute video. I don't think that's asking too much. And I think if you guys are smart with your time, okay, you're going to be fine. This is not something I would leave to the last minute, okay, because you just never know what's going to happen. So just be aware of what it is that you are doing, map it out, plan it out, and don't wait to the last minute, because I will have zero empathy for people that are emailing me the night before it's due saying, Mr. Leonard, my phone broke today and I couldn't shoot the video. Well, you had 2 weeks. Did the phone work then? You know what I mean? So just stay on top of this. That's a long stretch of time. I wanted to try and be understanding with what you guys have going on for other classes and not have such a quick turnaround time that you felt you needed to pour hours and hours and hours into this in like 4 days and to try and get done. Okay. So I know that changes our structure a little bit, and I'll let you know next class how those production and post-production days will have set aside for meeting times. Okay. On that note, all right, just a few tips before we close up on the day. All right, I know it's kind of weird that it's on that sheet, but complete the pre-production worksheet. All right, it is a graded homework assignment, but being thorough on it is going to act as your shot list, your script, and your outline for your video and edit. Being thorough with that is the best way to get off on the right foot. Okay, if you are shooting on your camera phone, do your best. I know it's tough, but try and get that camera as eye level as possible. Okay, like I want to talk to it here and not here, because this is a very unflattering look. All right, my anchor did that for their morning show yesterday, and we just kind of get this, double chin, ugly lighting kind of facial thing going on. If you're explaining something to someone, you want it to be like you are talking right to them, which is why, as weird as it is for me right now to be talking to you by staring only at my webcam, you just get in the habit of doing that for a video like this. On that note, to help you guys out on your phones, and I apologize, I don't have an Android, so I can't speak to how those phone settings work, but I would encourage you guys to change the recording settings of your video. All right, these phones are great as a quick way to shoot some stuff, and even if I need to supplement like my actual camera rig with some quick footage, I'll set this to 4K and go nuts. All right, but if I were you, I would go into your camera settings and I would change your camera record settings for video down to the lowest setting, 720, 30 frames a second. All right. There's no reason why you need to shoot 4K. 1080 is great, but at the same time, it's going to take twice as much time to upload. And if you remember from your WeVideo exports, okay, WeVideo only exports at 720 anyway. So you're going to save yourself storage on the phone because it'll take up less space. It'll upload to Google Drive quicker, and it'll import into WeVideo quicker. All right. So if you do that, you will save yourself so much time. Okay. And then someone asked yesterday, well, Mr. Leonard, could we just kind of be silly with it? 1,000% yes. All right. But you want to balance that with professional video production. You can be silly on camera, make sure your shot looks good. Okay. You can make jokes about what it is you're teaching, but make sure you've got a visually interesting video. All right. So I know that we're up against it, and I've got everything out that I need to get out. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Does anyone have any last minute questions on the project? All right. Of course, you can always email me later if you want. All right. I will be cutting the stream down in a minute just so I can restart it for my next period class. But does anyone have any questions? Throw them in the chat now. I'm going to pause for a bit to allow for that. If not, then we are going to wrap up on the day. Okay, I'm going to make the presumption that we're good. That being the case, I'm going to end the stream for the day. If you have questions over the weekend, maybe you're kicking around an idea and you want to run it by me real quick or see if it's okay, email me, let me know. All right, don't forget that the assignment that is up on Classroom, yes, there are 3 docs, but the pre-production worksheet, okay, is due at the end of next class on Tuesday. So the sooner you get through that, the sooner you get started on that, you can come with questions to class on Tuesday and then get that in by the end. All right. If I don't hear from you over the weekend, enjoy it. All right. Get outside if you can, go to a park, and I will talk to you all on Tuesday. All right. Be well, be happy, be healthy. Adios.